Hi folks, so if you don't know me, I'm Drew, aka Figgy. I used to work at Camp on the Berkshires. I was there for 3 summers, 3 kites, in Kochabim, and a little known fact about me is that I really love to cook. So in that spirit, I hope to bring you a little bit of camp spirit, you know, the whole 9 yards and what have you, and show you guys how to make what I like to call the I Miss Camp chili, or a really easy, really tasty, really delicious chili. So, first thing I do is I heat some oil up in a pot. Now I'll have, I cut everything up beforehand, but I still have my knife out. Probably not the best idea. And the ingredients that go into this are as such. I use green and red peppers, 1 to 2 onions. By the way, that's 1 to 2 green and red peppers. That's pepper, a can of beans of your choice. Really, you can do anything. Paprika, cumin, oregano. I like a little chipotle powder for the smoky flavor. Some more paprika because the one before was smoked. And some chili powder because it ain't chili with chili powder. But my secret ingredients, other than some garlic and some jalapeno and some tomato, are some cornmeal and cocoa powder. Now, for all my ex-campers, or those who would be campers, don't go eating that cocoa powder by in of itself. It will not taste good. It is not like hot cocoa in that it is not sweet. However, because it's going in chili, it'll bring a really nice earthy flavor. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my onions in. Might have made a little too many. But that's okay. If I made a little too many, it just means that I'm going to have more onions, and I'll be honest, I like onions. And if you don't like onions, I'm not going to say you're wrong, I'm just going to say you can cook it in different ways. I like my onions quick seared, so I turn the heat up real nice and hot, and get them broken down really quickly. If you want a more sweet onion, you could put them at a lower heat, and what you do is you'll cook them slowly for a very long time, but just wait, your patience will be rewarded with jammy, yummy, sweet, caramelized, slow-cooked onions. Now, if you'll notice, I had a paper towel over my onions. And I'll tell you why I had that. Because if you guys know, onions will sometimes make you cry. And there are many ways to not have that. First way is to get a nice sharp knife. And remember, kids, make sure that you're with your parents, A, when you're using knives and you have adult supervision, and B, be very careful. Always make sure you grip like this. But when you cut up onions, likely they're gonna make you want to cry until you get a wet paper towel, a damp paper towel, and put it over, which soaks up all the fumes and stuff that makes you want to cry. So I'm gonna sweat these for a little bit. Usually I'd add salt to this, but I'm trying to be a little more health conscious, you see. But if I were to add salt to this, what it would do is it would draw moisture out of the onions, allowing them to cook quicker. However, most of my salt I'm going to get from my black beans, even though they say low sodium. There's quite a bit of salt in beans, and I really do like beans in chili. This is a vegetarian chili. If you want to add meat, you could do that beforehand. And remember, if you are adding meat, you want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. Which is pretty simple with this. All you got to do is add it before the onions, take it out, and then do everything else. So, it's unfortunate because today I don't have any vegetable stock, so I'm going to substitute water, but don't you worry. This chili's still going to turn out to be really tasty. So we're over here. We're getting a little bit of fond in the pan. You see all that brown stuff. Because I didn't add too much oil. And then once the onions have gone they're looking a little soft, a little translucent, what you're going to do next is you're going to add some peppers. So I cut up a red pepper because I like the sweetness, and a green pepper and a green pepper and a half, sorry, because I like the flavor and the sort of sharpness of the green pepper. And I think those two work the best in chilies. You can mix and match if you like. It's really up to you. If you'll notice, I don't have any of the white stuff in my peppers when I cut them up, and that's not on accident. If you leave the white stuff in, it's called pith. Don't pith your parents off or something. But if you get some of the pith in, it gets really bitter, and I don't want that. When I was a kid, I really didn't like peppers either. And I didn't realize that because peppers are really sweet and they're really tasty and they're good for you. The only trouble was I always ate the white stuff, so it kept me from enjoying peppers. So we're gonna let that sweat a little more. And when I say sweat, I mean you see how it's all glistening and stuff? That's because all the moisture is getting taken out because it's on the heat. Because we're keeping it in the pot, it's gonna get nice and warm and delicious. Now remember, if you're using a gas oven like I am, be very careful. Fire is dangerous. If you're using an electric oven, be careful. Heat is dangerous. Again, I would highly recommend adult supervision. The only reason I'm doing this alone without my parents is because I've done this before. And, I am 21. Anyways, I'm making this video to show you guys how to make some awesome camp stuff. Like, you could make this at Mitbachon, which is what I would have worked at, or you could make this at Bishul. And generally, this is the start to get a lot of good stuff you'd have at camp. If you went to a Bishul, and you'd have scramble or mush or what have you. You start out with onions and peppers in your mush, and then the counselors will add bread and eggs, which is a lovely breakfast. But I'll be honest, it wasn't really my favorite. So today we're forgoing the eggs and going with more complicated recipe. Alright, so I'll let that sweat out a little bit more. Then I'll add my garlic and jalapeno. Now, I like my stuff a little spicy. If you don't like stuff as spicy, you don't have to put in jalapeno, but I would recommend the garlic. Garlic tastes great. Now, if you'll notice, again, I didn't leave any of the wet stuff in my jalapeno. I mentioned that I like things spicy, but I don't like them too spicy. If you leave the white stuff in the jalapeno, kudos to you, because that's the stuff that's super spicy. The seeds and the white stuff in your jalapeno. It's still going to be spicy, but not as spicy. And this goes for any chili pepper. But I like my stuff a little spicy, not too spicy. So let's get back to those peppers and onions. You don't have to stir it as much as I do. It just gives my other hand something to do other than record, you know? Alright, when they start to look like they're cooking through a bit, you can see at the bottom it's like bubbling up a little bit. That's because the liquid that's coming out of the stuff. You wouldn't imagine, but peppers and onions are mostly water. So the water that's coming out of it is being released. And once it hits the hot metal of the pot, what it does is like, oh no, I want to get out of here. So it comes up in the form of steam. So we'll let these go for a little bit longer, and then we'll add our jalapeno and our garlic. Now at this time you want to turn your heat down because jalapeno and garlic are more delicate when it comes to heat than peppers and onions. You can go really high heat for pepper and onion, but for garlic it's very delicate and it will burn very quickly. Same with jalapeno, especially because I like to preserve some of the natural spiciness of jalapeno, and if you cook it down too much, it won't be as spicy. Again, be careful when you're using hot stuff. Be careful when you're doing anything with fire or with knives. Make sure you're doing this with a parent if you feel that if the parent feels that it's necessary. Please be careful, I urge you. Now this is a great meal, and I'm sure some of you are wondering why I'm doing a hot, soupy meal in the summer. Well, I'd say if we'll take a look outside, it's not doing too hot, is it? So it's a really good pick-me-up. I hope to actually make this outside. I bought a specific burner so that we could get a different thing, but no go. It rained today, unfortunately. And, you know, some of my favorite times at camp were rainy days when I was a chanich there. I used to love sitting on the porch, playing games with everyone. And even as a madrich, I loved playing games on the porch and having a nice rainy day. Alright, so we're going to let that cook a little bit more. It smells really good in here. Like, really, really good. Now, to some of you, I might have used too much vegetables, but I like vegetables. Ain't nothing wrong with them, especially if you can put them in chili and cover it with, like, cheese and stuff. It's great. So when you move your spoon or whatever you want through it, it should feel soft and like easy to like really easy to move and like sort of soupish. And look, my spoon has a little thing so I can hook it onto the pot for when I want to do something else. So before I raise the temperature up anymore, I'm going to add some water. Now usually I would add if I were making a beef chili or something else, I would use chicken stock or chicken soup. And in this case, I would usually use vegetable stock or vegetable soup. You can find it in most supermarkets, or you can make it at home. But right now, I don't have it. So I'm just going to use water and let it reduce by half. What this is going to do is it's going to thicken it out, and also it's gonna create like, well, a more soupy consistency, a more chili-ish consistency. So we're gonna bring this up to a boil, get the heat up high again, add more of the water, and just let that boil down a little bit. And at this point, I like to add the tomatoes, because tomatoes are especially delicate, and I don't want to make them like so soft that they'll like get destroyed and won't stand up to the chili. So adding water and sort of like poaching them in this water is a really great way to do it. And at this point, it's starting to look it's starting to look very vibrant with vibrant colors. And I love a vibrant colored chili, but I also love a chili that looks like a deep dark maroon, and those chilies are ones that I really admire. In terms of this one, I would really recommend making sure you get as much flavor out of this as you want. So this is what I like to do. You can skip this step, but you need to add some form of liquid, because the liquid helps to deglaze any fond you had on the pot. Fond is any sticky stuff that's stuck to the pot. If you ever cleaned a pot, you'll notice that when you add water, it's easy to scrape up stuff. So this is basically like cleaning the pot, but with stuff in it. No soap. Don't eat soap. That would be bad news bears. Anyways, it's getting very hot here, and I'm hoping that it'll boil soon, but you know what they say, a watch pot never boils. About now is where I like to add some spices. So I'm going to use some yellow cornmeal to help thicken it, and also to help the water reduce and get really nice and a really great consistency. So I like to do 3 tablespoons. And by tablespoons, I mean heaping tablespoons, because I'm a psychopath. And don't beat yourself up if you spill anything like I did, because it's just means that you're gonna have to clean it up. And here's the thing that I really love to do: the cocoa. You don't want too much because that'll overpower it. But I like to do 1 teaspoon of cocoa. And that'll make it really nice and earthy and really delicious. Don't worry, it won't taste like chocolate. If it tasted like chocolate, it wouldn't really make a great chili, would it? So I'm going to stir this in, and already you'll see how the color will change. Like to a darker, more chili-ish. Yeah, look at that. It smells kind of chocolatey, but don't worry. We're going to add a bunch more flavors. For example, what's chili without chili powder? Add as much or as little as you want. I like a chili with good body, so that much. And you'll notice that I'm not using any measurements. I don't really like to cook with measurements. You can if you want to, it's your choice. But I like to see where things go, just based on my taste and what flavors I like. And how can you tell if you like something? So you can hold it up to your nose and give it a sniff. And if you like how it smells, put it in. Because most of what you taste, you actually are smelling. So we're getting thickened up, real nice and good. Now, I would usually add more beans, but this time around I'm just adding 1 can. And don't go rinsing the beans or anything like that. I kind of like the flavor in the liquid that carries the beans. So I'm going to pour them right in. It's getting nice and hot and boily, so I'm going to kill the heat a little bit and just stir those beans in real nice. Now we have a really interesting, funky chili because of the cocoa, but I want to take it up a notch. I like to use chipotle powder. Chipotles are actually smoked jalapenos, so they have a real nice smoky flavor, and it adds some really great stuff to a chili. It won't make it too hot, again, because, you know, it's just jalapenos, and jalapenos are one of the least spicy hot peppers. But it adds a really lovely smoky flavor. And to go upon that smoky flavor, one of my favorite things, smoked paprika. Now, paprika is great, but smoked paprika is fantastic. I brought this home from my dorm. No joke, and now a lot of my family, they're wondering what they would do without it. I just can't wait till I get to buy a new one. Then I had some regular paprika because, you know, smoked paprika does taste really smoky, but you can forget what regular paprika tastes like. Hear that burbling? And now it's good, and now it's smelling, and now it's looking real nice. The next thing I add is some oregano, which makes it taste like, gives it another taste to it. Like, it adds another flavor that works really well with this. Now, if you'll notice, I didn't add any salt, and to be honest, I don't plan to. Even though it said low sodium, I'll say it again. Everyone likes a different amount of salt in their stuff, so season it as much as you want, but I like to leave salt out of it so people can salt it themselves. Don't you worry, this is great for kids too. I've had many a kid eat this. If you're wondering about picky eaters and what have you. I find that, you know, I was a picky eater as well. So when I found out how I could prepare food for myself, like with foods I didn't usually eat, I realized, hey, I could prepare it in a different way. So if you're an adult, mom or dad watching this, or Ima or Abba, maybe what you could do is just prepare a food they don't like a different way, which is what I did with the peppers, because I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan of peppers. All right, so here's my favorite of the spices, ground cumin. Now this stuff is amazing. It really adds some awesome flavors to it, and it really bolsters and backs up the chili. Now it's getting thick and you can hear it. I like a lot of cumin, I'll be honest. I'm a huge... So we just put the cumin in and we're gonna mix it together. If you want yours to be less soupy, again, you can turn the heat up and let it boil down more. To be honest, I kind of like it that way too. Just make sure that you're stirring so nothing gets stuck to the bottom, So nothing gets stuck to the bottom. If you want to add more vegetable oil or any other oil, that's up to you. Personally, I don't like to add any more. It's sort of detracts from it, but we'll get back to this in a few minutes once it's boiled down, and then I'll show you the finished product. Watch that thing boil. You can see it really bubbling really nicely, so it's going to be really hot. If you're going to eat this, you'll want it to cool down a bit, but I'll be honest, I made a batch the other day, and it was still really good. So here's some freshly ground pepper, because I can't grind pepper with two hands that I'm tossing in. I like a lot of pepper. I think that some people season too much with salt and pepper, but I just think the problem lies in the salt and not the pepper. If people want things to be more spicy, they can just add pepper to make it taste good. So I'll use this time to ask and show you guys the mess I've made. Remember, guys, clean up after your mess. We all got to do Nicayon. What have you guys been up to? I'm sorry that we can't see each other this kites. I was really looking forward to it, but feel free to tell me anything, and hopefully I'll hear back from you guys. But until then, I really hope you guys enjoy your chilies. I really hope that you enjoy your kaitzim, and I really hope that I will see you again, God willing, in Kaitz Alpaim U Esrim Ve'echad. Wow, that's a mouthful. Anyways. Bye.